Continued, we will show how after we have the base commission employee class, how demonstrate the inheritance relationship. But before that, I just want to compare to show you if without the inheritance relationship, what happened. You see, commission employee, here is the UML diagram, right? So we have the first name, last name, social security number, gross sales, and the commission rate. So if we don't have inheritance relationship, so when we write the base plus commission employee, that will be the UML diagram for the base plus commission employee. You see, they should still have the first name, last name, and the social security number, gross sales, and the commission rate, right? Because they should have that. So then, then we have the base salary. That's addition to the commission employee. So the same thing here, you will see if I have the commission employee, base plus commission employee, they are individual class. So then they should have the constructor. So the constructor actually is base plus commission employee. So we will pass the first name, last name, social security number, and the gross sales, commission rate, and the base salary. So here is all the getter function and the setter function. So this one you can see here is we say if we don't use the commission and we don't use the inheritance relationship. But you see, if without the inheritance relationship, all the code will be so duplicate because the base plus commission employee, they do have those 5 data attributes. On the other hand, they need this 10 getter function and the setter function. So you can refer to the source file how we implement the base plus commission employee without the inheritance. But we see now, if we have inheritance relationship, how will that affect our commission employee? Okay, so you will see here, if we have this inheritance relationship, like earlier we showed you, your commission employee, since you have inheritance relationship, right? So all the information we define here, I just don't show everything, but you should know, besides you have 5 private data attribute in the commission employee, we have all the member function here. Okay, so if you have the this arrow inheritance relationship, all those member function actually inherited so to the base plus commission employee. So then, addition to this 5 data attribute, my base plus commission employee, I only need base salary. So then the same thing, my constructor, right? I do still need to have my constructor. So my constructor, so here I've spelled wrong, that's a base plus commission employee. So I need to add 1 more data attribute for the base salary, right? So then the same thing here, actually that's just additional to our inheritance. We have the base salary and we have the getter function for the base salary and the setter function for the base salary. But I do have the earning and the print. But the good thing is, since we have this arrow, the inheritance, so then all the data attribute and the member function we all inherited. So how this arrow will be shown in the source file. So the commission employee, CPP, and the header file is still the same. But here, after we have this inheritance, we see how should we implement base plus commission employee. So this one is our base plus commission employee using the inheritance. You can get that from the example 3. So where is that inheritance? Right here is the keyword. In the header file, you still have your if not defined the include God for the base plus. So I still implement. So that's why here, if you have your inheritance, right? So when you define your class base plus commission employee, so column, this one actually means the inheritance. So one column continue with your parent class name. And here they have the public modifier. So this one means I public inherited from the commission employee. So what mean public inherited? That's mean all the public member function from the commission employee, I also can access publicly. So since you have this one, you want to inherit it from your commission employee class. So don't forget, you need to include your base class header file. So that's why all the definition we can access from here. So then here you just need to define your own private data. So for the base plus commission employee, we add base salary. So then our constructor, we have 6 data attributes. I need the first name, last name, social security number, gross salary, commission rate, and this one is my base salary. So I only need to implement my own setter function and getter function for my private data attribute. So I only have base salary. So since I calculate differently, so I still need to have an earning method. So this earning function just have your base salary plus your commission rate times your gross sales. So when I print, of course, I still need to print the name and the social security number. But additional to the gross sales and the commission rate, we need to display my base salary. Okay, so here we will see continue how should we implement each member function after we include the inheritance relationship. So let's see how we implement the CPP file. For the base plus commission employee, we include a header file. So here is our constructor. So remember our constructor including the first name, last name, social security number, sales and the rate and the salary. So did you remember where we define first name, last name, social security number, sales and the rate? Right, we define in the base class, right? So that's why here it's very important. One thing is, since we define all those 5 data in the base class, so one thing here is we can initialize those 5 attributes only in the base class constructor. So did you remember after you have your constructor signature, then you have one column. This column means what? In the constructor function. So this column means the initializer, right? Right. So before last week, we talked about your initializer for what? Your initializer in the constructor function before the function implementation, you can specify all the data attribute. So for example, did you remember when we do the account class, after this command for my constructor function, account constructor function, did you remember after this column, the column, so then we can do here is the ID, so then you can pass ID. So then if you have first name, so then you can have the first name pass. So that's what we call the initializer, right? Okay, good. So here we will show you the initializer. Besides, you can specify each data attribute in your private data attribute. This initializer, we also can explicitly to call the base constructor. So here, actually, what we need to do is we need to go back to see the inheritance relationship. Your inheritance relationship, this arrow mean in C++, when you inherited from your base class, right? So we say here, additional to those 5 data attributes, I just need to add my on in the child class, right? So this one actually means every one child class, one child object created, actually they call the parent class constructor. So that's why you inherit it. So then they have the parent class constructor actually being invoked first. That's the inherited from me. So when you do the inheritance relationship, actually what does that mean is when you try to create your child object, they will call the child constructor function. But inside the child constructor function, actually they call the parent's constructor function. So that's how they look like. When I try to call BasePlusCommissionEmployee, I try to create this object, right? But actually, when I call this constructor before they finish, they call the parent class constructor function. So that's why here actually is the parent class object being created first. So then kind of can be accessed from the child class object. So that's inheritance relationship look like after we create the object. So actually that's how the memory look like. When you try to write, you try to create one child object, but this child object finished created is the first thing they will call the parent's constructor to create a parent object first. Then the child object includes on the parent object. So then the whole child object being created. So that's why we say after you have this arrow relationship inherited, all those data attribute from a parent class, they being created. So that's the child object look like. So that's why in our source file, so here your constructor function, actually the child class, they will call the base class constructor. So then you see you can pass the parameter. So the only thing you need to set is set the base salary. Good. Right. So then we only have 2 getter function and one getter function, one setter function for the base salary. So this one is set base salary. We just need to check the new salary is greater than 0. So we can set the new salary. So then the getter function, we just need to return the base salary. But our earnings change a little bit. So our earning actually is we have our commission rate times the gross sales plus base salary. So see here, you need to be careful. So this one, when we try to using commission rate times the gross salary, we are not just using the commission rate private data. We're using the getter function. So we call the parent class getter function so we can multiply. So then we plus the private data from the base salary in the child class. The reason is need to be careful. Even we say we inherited from parents, right? But the commission rate and the gross sales still are the private data in the parent class. So the child class cannot direct access from. So instead, even in the child class, we only can access the public member function from the parent class, because everything is private in the parent class. They are only private to the parent class itself. So that's you see here. Even you contain another parent class object, right? But you still see here, they are private assets. So here in your trial class, you only